Good morning, everybody. It was a long day yesterday, so I went over a few things as far as what I think should be going on with legislation, and I'm not sure if I came across exactly the way that I wanted to come across, so I'm going to very quickly go down the line, go down my checklist, and then also um, mention my views on the economy. Which I've already touched on in a different video, which involves the loss of jobs, but it also involves like how people can manipulate the free market and um, basically in insider trading. Like there's like people that know what they should be doing so that they can short sell. Um, Hedge funds are confusing. Like that's like totally like it's counterintuitive. It has nothing to do with how a real corporation is performing. It means that a corporation is not performing, so you develop a hedge fund for it. I didn't really know what to think of it when I was studying like accounting and in my business school, but um either way, it's ugly. It's ugly. So, okay, so women's rights has nothing to do with abortions. Women's rights is women should not get pregnant by anybody, by men, um, because men are the people in charge of the woman's body when they are penetrating, and they should not um, make the person pregnant if they can't have kids. If they don't want to have kids, right? So it's not so the women's rights, and for a woman, it's hurtful because even if I'd wanted to have like I had two live births before I had my first and last abortion. I took a day after pill one other time with the same guy that I was sleeping with because I thought he like women think, right? Like he might show up one day. Nope, never did. It doesn't matter. I mean, I didn't like the guy anyway. So it's my fault. Mea culpa. Mea culpa. So and anyhow, so yeah, so the men have to respect the role of a woman as a future mother and as a vehicle for transporting a family name. That's it. That's all a woman is. Don't mess with a woman if you're not going to have a family with them. Don't. Why? What for? So Second Amendment, inclusively that those whom deny other. So yeah, no, my take on I don't think that Mrs. Green from Georgia was heckling anybody. Um, I think she was trying to prompt the young man to sort of see outside of his experience, so that he doesn't get traumatized, because there are people that carry guns and that don't actually use them, but can they can um and unfortunately, yes, like bad things happen and they happen, but let's be kind to each other and let's make sure that it's not our fault. And I love my aunt for saying this to me, but when when my number's called by God, that's it. I'm gone. Like I'm just going to be some random bystander that had nothing to do with anything with the shooting or anything like that. And people shouldn't have to live their entire lives hanging on to that, especially youth. Youth is very resilient, right? They don't want to. I don't I don't want to be afraid of guns. I don't want to be afraid of guns. I'll tell you that. I don't carry one. I don't own one. I probably never will. I've never messed with anybody that I know has a gun. I'll tell you that. So if anybody tells me that they have a gun and they might try and kill me, I'll probably I'll do something about it. But I like to prevent things. So that's where the conversation is. The conversation is how to prevent people that are hurt, that are going astray, and being a community and making sure that they don't kill anybody that you love. I don't know. When I was in high school, my high school principal actually on one occasion had Black people and Hispanic people just go at it, fist fighting. And I just looked at him and I said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. That was shameful." I went home. I was puny, right? I was like a little twiggy person. Like nobody even messed with me. Like, please, I would could not. And I didn't mess with anybody either, though. So I need a favor, though. Please keep listening. I can't stand that logic. And the quid pro quo is not Joe Biden accepting money through his son. That's not quid pro quo. No, it's when Trump said, "I need a favor though." Quid pro quo. Anyhow, I've seen a good amount. So I think that most people that are literally over it, okay, there's a lot of bad people in this world. I get it, you get it, we get it. Guns are not going away. They're not going away. If you wanted guns to go away, let's talk about Raytheon. Let's talk about Northrop Grumman, right? Let's talk about all the military contractors that are creating guns and that are sending them abroad, putting us all at risk because the United States has actually supplied guns to other countries in order to, in the name of their own self-defense. They're not going away, and they're not going away. What do they call Vermont Row, uh, Murder Row or whatever? I actually lived there for 3 years, 4 years, including near North. If you don't do anything wrong, you're not going to get killed. You don't have to be afraid. People have guns. Don't mess with people. That's it. Period. Just don't mess with people. Mind your own. Just, stick to your own business. I don't like it when people say that I carry a gun and I deal drugs and I'm the person that's doing. Oh, ho, 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 ho. That's when we're going to have problems. But I've taken it to a little bit of punching my pillows here and there just to feel a little bit stronger, braver, and anyhow, yeah, don't. People are not this is a really bad analogy, but it's true. If you're afraid of somebody, I'm not going to use this analogy. I'm sorry. It's not, but I'm going to use it for people, people that are maybe experiencing violence or turmoil in their heads. If you're afraid of them, you're going to make them think that you're a threat. That's just don't treat people like they're a threat, because if you treat some people like they're a threat, they're going to treat you like you're a threat. And then if they're bigger than you or have a gun, that's it. Just treat people be uh lighthearted, be um God spirited. No, God is not the thing. It's God. God is made up of the creator, whom we're going to eventually get to, whom sent his only begotten son in flesh so that he could teach us how to comport ourselves in order to have access to God. And the way they do that is through the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is like the software, right? So like God is like it is like the mainframe or whatever. And like Jesus is like the hardware that we need to, I don't know. I'm still developing my ideas about what I should think about Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God, the Holy Trinity, as far as like how I can actually relate it back to. But there's software, hardware, and then a maybe a mainframe. I don't know. Okay. So anyhow, the wiring. Oh, maybe the Holy Spirit is the wiring. Okay, so so there are people that think like me that know that there's an afterlife. There's an afterlife. I've had tragedy in my life. I'm very like preventative about any tragedies under my watch. I'm very like, yeah, but better safe than sorry. Like I'm sure everything's fine, but I'm not gonna risk it. And I'm more a person that would rather not, like if like sometimes people's argument, like my kids, my son especially, is, well, you always think that I'm this or that, or you always think that I'm bad, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're not gonna do it anyway, then why does it matter that I mention it? So good, that's great. So it's more about like preventative. It's more about, you don't know how far things can go. You just have, like, just like stay on the straight and narrow. Let's put it that way. Straight and narrow. Okay, so, but I do like to, I don't want to bring my kids up in like some sort of like like a paranoia type of an ambient. So I tell them, don't do anything wrong. If you're not doing anything wrong, don't, you have nothing to fear. Period. I don't carry a gun. I don't like weapons. I don't like violence. I fantasize about knocking people out sometimes and going all American psycho, but it's not going to happen. So okay, so the foreign policy was the idea with the Trump administration was, we're not going to be the big brother to anybody. We're not going to be the policeman, because they have, okay, so we're not like in the 60s, 70s, whatever, 80s. I think this probably went on through the 80s, 90s was confusing. We got targeted big time, late 90s, right? Was it? No, I'm sorry. Early in this in this millennium. That's a funny word. Make my millennium. It's like we were like, make my millennium, and then we were like, they were like, oh yeah. Okay, so sorry. That's fine. The rest of the world has a right to develop themselves as much as we have the right to continue developing ourselves. We're all developing. Everything evolves. We're all evolving. And the whole point, though, to me, I have a favor to ask, though. Um, it doesn't, it's not confined to this world. It also has to do with where we might end up in our eternal selves. I'm not kidding. I really do. Like, I'm not, like, if you've ever like talked to anybody that like has like wisdom of like an ancient, person that you wonder, like, are you just like born again into, believe it, believe it. Besides, I'm not here to talk about like scientifically like proving anything, and I'm not going to talk about anything that I'm going to have to be forced to prove scientifically, because I don't have anything against science. The biggest, the best scientist is God. But I do, I'm not going to be able to understand how God, I know that God created everything perfect. I know that God created everything very like, in our sun is just the perfect distance away from Earth in order to keep us alive and to create life. I can't explain that. That's for God to explain, and you can communicate to God. He's not my God alone, He's everybody's God. So, sort of lost my track. If I come back to it, fine. Otherwise, it's not important. But I thought that under the Trump administration, and what I was really like warming myself up to, is that he wanted to just have this nation be the best. He wanted it to be like actually improve, not by deception like Biden does, because Biden wants to keep doing this whole like, I he talks to Chinese like they're retards. He doesn't, he thinks his clout in the United States is gonna like carry on with himself and other nations, and that's not their culture. That's not the culture of the Chinese people. The Chinese people think like, look at this guy. They think they can play Joe, and Joe is going to react to that. And that's why I'm afraid of war with Joe, because like Joe is such a like ignoramus that he's not gonna and he's not gonna be the person that steps in the front line to actually fight anybody when he gets everybody into conflict over his ego and wants to take them to the back of the alley and just keep punching and punching and punching, and then tries to have them have push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it was. I don't like Joe Biden as my president. It's obvious. No, not as a 40, maybe like as a 21-year old, and anywhere from like 20 to like 35, I would have said, let's just, blow it. Who cares? But as a 41-year-old that wants to make better decisions about voting for the right person, I don't like him. Lots of people don't like him. Half the country doesn't like him. If you actually believe in the numbers that came through in the elections, I mean, I would say that it's more like a third of the country likes Joe. I wouldn't even say a third of the country likes Joe. I would say maybe like a quarter. Barely a quarter of the country likes Joe, while 75% liked Trump's agenda. Because we see ourselves as a people that have been subjugated. I'm just going to make up words if I don't know what to the whims of the elites, the people that are in power that don't really care about providing and about making things better. And it is more about like the competition up at the top. And I don't even believe in the vaccine. I'll go ahead and say that. This is why but you know what? Since I spoke out against like Chapo and like every cartel member and people want to kill me anyway, then I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I don't believe in the vaccine. I was diagnosed with childhood asthma. I know what my problem is. I have really fragile lungs. My lungs are like, can't smoke. I don't smoke. You can't, like, when there's fires here and in my vicinity, forget it. I can't go outside. I can't breathe. I can't run. I can't have that. So that's what my problem is. It's not the coronavirus. It could be a flu. It could be, and you know what? Whatever is affecting us, it could be a plague sent by God that only God is going to be able to cure. And by the way, I also happen to think that it has more to do with the alignment of the planets. And I'm not just saying that like in some sort of like it like an astrological way. I'm saying it as like physics. Like astronomy would tell you that when you have the two biggest planets crossing over each other and then going in retrograde, it's gonna have an effect on this planet. I know they're very far to us, but, and I'm not scientist, but either way. So national security means like, come on, treat people like they're people. We've all maybe lied or done something like we weren't supposed to. We should all know right from wrong. Trust me, like people that are doing something wrong, they know. Just treat people like they know what they're doing. You don't have to be so domestic policy is, why be condescending? And in case anybody that is a Biden supporter is listening, who do you think built the cages to hold people in at the border? Do 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 do. Obama and Biden. Yeah, they built the gates, the cages. Sorry. So Trump was like the unsuspecting victim that walked right into it. Like he was like, oh, like I want to, protect this nation. Obama and Biden didn't have the balls, and like Trump was like, oh, wait, well, why should anybody care? Because that's like actually like what nations do. Like they protect their borders. All nations do that. Why not here? And I'm from Mexico, and I've been to Mexico, and I was very fortunate to have a very pleasant experience with my Mexican folk. At least with regards to sheltering and upbringing and the whole thing. I mean, obviously, is there was never a need for conflict between us, and I didn't know anything about like drugs or violence when I lived with him for short periods of times as a child. But um, they they have their dignity. They don't care. Like, put up your wall. Okay. They're all born here anyway. They can cross if they want to. I mean, other Mexican people, I mean, I wouldn't say tough luck, but seriously, like when I lived there, it's not just my own family. It's like people that like people that live there in Mexico want to have their life settled somewhere, anywhere, wherever there's a good opportunity. And if it's in Mexico, trust me, they're fine with it. They don't care about it. Well, they don't. So stop it with. I'm not gonna. I'm working on my vocabulary because I'm gonna be working on customer service types of issues. So um, this is a good practice for me because I get to like sort of, I guess, anytime I stumble upon everything. Trust me, I would never talk about my politics or religious views with anybody. Oh my God, I'm extreme when it comes to, like, I wouldn't expect anybody to be as extreme as I am. Trust me. So, okay. So, domestic policy is just like, don't be condescending. No, treat people, it's about being individualistic and being competitive. And when you're not being individual or competitive, it doesn't matter because your parents have access to resources. Maybe grant funding for, for training. Put the parents back in charge of their kids. I cannot stand I can't stand what happened to me. And my experience with my kids, not when once my son got to junior high and he had, I mean, it's like something gets into these administrators, and I really, I tried to actually be I'm the disciplinary, parent. I'm the bad cop. I've been the bad cop my entire life with my kids. And I like it that way. I don't want anybody else to, to be the bad cop, which is, it explains a lot of my other views. Like, I don't want anybody to go out and come across like some cop, whatever color he is, that's having a bad day and is going to do something to harm you that makes you, that ruins your life, if not ends it. You can't control other people. You can't. Don't try and control other people. Control your own actions. If your own if you can say to yourself, I don't know what kind of day a cop is going to be having. He has a gun. I don't have one. I'm just going to play it safe. Straight and narrow, my friends. Straight and narrow. Have self-control. Don't cooperate. Don't always cooperate. Don't ever test anybody that, especially when with COVID. And I can tell you that even with George Floyd, he was much more weak than he would have been under a different circumstance. It's just the times we're living in. It's not, it hasn't, I don't believe that the person whom was instructed to put his knee on anybody's, on an uncooperative, person's neck, thought that he was going to actually kill them. I don't believe that. You'll never convince me of that. And unfortunately, George Floyd didn't know how weak his lungs were either. And that's everybody. That's everybody right now. I'm sorry, but with COVID, I don't want to call it. It's not. It really. It's something that we cannot control. We just have to know that it's out there. We're not our strongest self, and it has nothing to do with Chinese. With Chinese communists spreading anything. It has to do with the fact that I think some of us just like put more energy out there. Like right now, like I've been speaking for like maybe half an hour, And I feel like I'm drained. Well, that was George Floyd too. Just you don't have that energy. And yes, you can and engineer. Chemical warfare is probably real. Excuse me. But George Floyd was also under the influence of other abusive substances. So just I kind of sidetracked there, didn't I? All right. So and anyhow, George Floyd. By the way, I'm going to end it with this. Seemed like the coolest guy in the world, but you can tell he had sass. He had sass, and maybe that day, like nobody was gonna put up with it, and that's all it was. Like it has nothing to do with the fact that he was a person that looked different. Nothing at all. Believe that. I mean, if that was the case, he would have been like gone a long time ago because those two like knew each other for a long time. So thank you. So more access to resources, grant funding for training. Training. Why is it like, okay, so like this is more like about that equity thing, like equity. I've gotten this far all on my own for Susan Rice to tell me that I could have just freeloaded off of everybody the whole time. I mean, that just doesn't seem fair. I mean, because I'm sort of self-made. Nobody made me. I left my home when I was like 17 years old. I had my baby at 18. Have two kids now. I've lived homeless for like 5 years when I lost a job that I didn't care to fight for. Actually, I broke a lease and then I couldn't rent again. And then I found another job and then I had to be homeless, not like in a tent or anything, luckily, but I'm self-made. I pride myself on that. That's one day I'm going to look back and I'm going to say, wow, like look at everything that I've been through and look at where I am. That's like the best feeling that I feel that I could ever have. I don't want you to give me equity. I'm an equal competitor. I can give as much or as little as I want, like in Chopped. If I if I lose, I lose. Period. Like it's like that's the way it goes. Keep your equity. Stick it up somebody's butt, not mine. That's very upsetting. And let me mention Benghazi, by the way, while I'm at it with that. I don't know. Just stop. Please. That's very upsetting. Entirely upsetting. People are just, some people are better. It even in the scriptures, it says some people are gonna have more. They're gonna have more. That's it. Doesn't matter. It also says the first will come last and the last will come first. And God, okay, so God is very like he's not like he doesn't think like us. He doesn't think like like in a linear fashion or circular fashion. He thinks in both linear, circular, everything. Like he's everything. He's here all at the same time, all at once. It's not either or. It's not. Sorry. Okay, so if you provide this funding for training, you're going to have to hire people to oversee everything. So you're going to have to hire people to oversee the training for these types of institutions. And this is more like old school stuff. Like I'm talking about like summer youth employment training program back in Inglewood High School stuff. Okay, I'm not talking about none of your zero, whatever it is. I forget the next term, but that's impossible. You're like setting yourself up for failure. It's like somebody who's like 300 pounds and wants to lose like 200 pounds by tomorrow. Like, and tomorrow I'm going to lose 200 pounds. You're setting yourself up for failure and you're taking everybody down with you, and you know what you're doing. That's the whole thing. Is I have to believe that the people at the White House know what they're doing. Why do you have all that protection anyway? Because people like me know what you're up to? Please. I don't even own a gun. And Chewbacca was like almost naked. So please. Okay. And then there's the youth. The youth is what's important, not your next, not you climbing up the ladder, not you climbing, not you trying to kick the can down the road for another, to create tensions with other countries. That when everybody here, like true citizens here, that buy products from other places that can actually be manufactured here, get upset and demand an explanation. So you have to create some sort of like conflict, like some sort of like that's like the oldest trick in the book, man. That's like I'm gonna ask you to stop and think. Anyhow, I am a Reagan baby, by the way. When people offer you drugs, just say no and stop, drop, and roll. Okay, I'm just being silly now, but I do mean everything that I said. And wish me luck, because today I might actually get employed, and then I can make donations to Mrs. Green in her efforts to impeach Joe Biden. And who else? Oh, is it Callaway? Callaway. Wish me luck, guys. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Oh my God, 38 minutes.